Welcome back to Always Learning, and what are we doing today? Well, we're learning about mock scrapes, and I'm actually down here at my sister and brother-in-law's property. It's a little 80 acres with maybe 8 acres of timber down here near Wellington, and I'm putting up a mock scrape, and it's super windy, so I'm just going to narrate so you don't have to listen to the wind howling. A mock scrape is simply you're faking what naturally occurs in nature, and you're just creating a situation and you're creating it where you want it to be rather than you trying to hunt over a scrape. You simply make a scrape where you want it. And deer use the scrape as a communication or a calling post that they check in on other ones. They'll leave their scent, they'll leave their urine, they'll lick it, they'll rub their orbital glands against it, so they leave their scent there. And fawns, does, bucks, they all use it as kind of a way to check in to see who's been by and kind of who's in the neighborhood. And so it's a great way for you, if you set a trail cam over this, to get an inventory of the bucks that are on the property. If you're putting feed out, that's great. That's going to draw deer. That's kind of like putting a food plot out. That's going to draw deer to your property, but deer actually will hit the mock scrape and go right past the food source at different times a year because it's really a vital part of them to get information about what's going on. And so it's an easy way, it's a cheap way for you to have another thing that's going to bring deer closer to your deer stand. So setting up a mock scrape is really easy, or a licking stick. There's really four key components that add to a successful mock scrape. The first is location. The second is the stick and the stick size. The third is how you hang it. And the fourth is the dirt patch below. So the first thing you want to do is pick a location, and if you already got a tree stand up, then it's probably in a good location. Then set it about 30 yards from there if you can find a good tree that's going to serve as a place for a mock scrape. But if you haven't put one up before and there's not really a lot in your area, look for a place between your bedding area and your food source. It could be along a heavy trail. It could be where trails merge, and that's kind of what I did. If you look at the map, where my mock scrape is, it's to the north of this kind of little bowl. And so what deer will do is sometimes they'll just work that edge of the bowl and go around, and they'll go around me. So, or they'll come through the edge of the field and then they'll hit that corner below the mock scrape, and then they'll go 3 or 4 different areas because that's where the trails kind of merge there. So all I'm trying to do is to direct those deer to the place where the trails merge rather than going around the field and going up around me where they're not in bow range, where there's a bunch of trees in the way. And that's kind of where you want to set up. You also want to keep in mind you want to set it somewhere where you can put a trail cam within about 20 yards so you can get a good inventory of all the bucks and deer that are in your area that are coming through. When it comes to hanging the stick, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. What I did in this case is I found a branch that was overhanging. It was about 10 feet up over the trail that I wanted to target because it was 20 feet from my stand. And it was 20 yards from my stand. It was about 20 feet from where I normally had my trail cam anyway. So what I did was I took a golf ball and when I was at home, I drilled a hole through it, and then I ran my paracord through it, tied a knot around it so that I could use that weight to throw the paracord over the tree. And then once I got the golf ball over the tree, I undid the knot, tied it to the stick. I actually cut little grooves in the stick with my saw just to help the paracord kind of dig in. I also found a little knot in there, and I loop the paracord through the knot. The deer are going to get up there and they're going to rub it and they're going to move it, and so you don't want it falling down on the deer. That way you don't have to check it. Less time that you're in the property giving any kind of pressure to the deer. And so then I'll simply take one end, like I said, tie it to the stick. I'll take the other end and I ran it 20 feet over and just simply tied it to a tree as if I was hanging a bag to protect it from bears. And you want that stick to hang down when you're hanging it. You want it hanging about waist high. So even a fawn or a young doe can play with it and leave their scent on it as well. And that's the main thing that you're just trying to do when you're hanging that stick, is to get it on a trail, possibly even where the deer are going to run into it. Another way you can do it if you're a one sticker or if you're a saddle hunter is you can take a ladder. You can climb up a tree about 8 feet and run basically like a clothesline from one tree to the other, so that paracord or that rope spans across the trail. And then anywhere on that trail where you want to hang your stick, you simply go over the top of that clothesline that you've created, and then simply tie both sides to the mock scrape or the stick so that it'll hang. The only thing I don't like about that is I feel like it gives it maybe too much motion, where a tree is going to provide, maybe a tree branch is going to provide a little more stability to the moving of it. But that's another way you can do it if that is the ideal situation or place where you want to hang the stick. The last component is just the dirt patch below, and you can take a rake. You're just simply going directly underneath the mock scrape where you've hung the stick, and you're going to make about a 3 foot in diameter patch of dirt that's clear underneath. I just used my boot, the heel and toe of my boot, to kind of kick it and clear it. But like I said, you can bring a small shovel and kind of dig around in there, or you can rake it. And then you want to either urinate or pour a little bit of water in there. If you urinate in there 20 minutes, your scent is going to be dissipated. The deer's not going to be able to tell a difference between you and another deer actually urinating in it. So, but it gives a little more authenticity to the mock scrape, because that's what deers do when they scrape, is they'll paw in it, they'll pee in it, and you can just see it's a big kind of, it has its own wet spot even when it's dry out in normal conditions. So that's it. Location, finding the proper stick, just hanging it really any way you kind of want, and then creating a dirt spot below. And then once you've done that, it's setting up your tree stand, if you didn't already do it, about 20 to 30 yards to find a tree. And that's important when you're setting that mock scrape, kind of begin with the end in mind, and having a tree or a stake where you can put your trail camera to capture the deer that are coming through and hitting that, so you can get a good inventory of what deer are on your property and what kind of target bucks are coming through. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. And if you want to get notification of when another video drops, just hit the little bell up in the corner and it will send you a notification when that video drops.